Thank you, Philippe. That was really beautiful. You guys ready for some speakers? More speakers? All right. Please help me welcome children's book author of Shelley being the Sports Queen and advocate for girls and women in sports, Shelley Boyum-Breen.
Good morning. Thank you to Quorum for hosting this event, and I'm extremely grateful for the volunteers, but the visibility of seeing all of you here today. My name is Shelley Boyum-Breen. I identify as a lesbian among the many hats that I wear. And today and every day for me is really about living out my true self and being visible. It's about sharing my story so that others can hear it, take what they may from it, and grow our visibility, creating a safer and more inclusive world. I grew up in Brainerd, which is a smallish town about 2 hours north of the Twin Cities. I was the youngest of 5 children and the only girl. I went to Catholic elementary school and was often the class leader, which meant that I would read at weekly mass. And I was one of the first girls to be an altar girl in our town, which, if you know the Catholic Church, that was monumental. I was captain of 3 sports in high school, 2 of them by the time I was a sophomore. For 4 years, my picture was in the newspaper almost monthly and even weekly for my sports achievements. And I was homecoming queen. Why you laugh? Thank you. My parents wanted a little girl so badly. They had 4 boys in 6 years, and they started to explore adopting to get that girl that they had always wanted. In the end, they decided to give it one more try, and when my mom became pregnant, the doctor was certain she was going to be having her 5th boy. On Sunday, May 5th, 1974, I arrived and surprised everyone, causing the house and yard to be decorated in pink with cigars that said, "It's a girl." I was spoiled rotten by everyone, and I felt the pressure and the expectation to be the perfect girl that they all wanted me to be. While my mother tried desperately to make me the next Shirley Temple, I grew up doing activities that labeled me a tomboy. I played hockey and football and basketball, and I rode a dirt bike and snowmobile. For Halloween, I was usually a deer hunter or a football player. I had a couple best friends in the neighborhood who were boys, and I recall being in about 3rd grade when I announced to the guys in our karate club in my storage garage that when I was 18, I was going to have a sex change because I thought it was the only way that I could like girls. I must have caught an episode of Phil Donahue or something, and they didn't bat an eye. It all made sense to us because we didn't know what options were out there. We didn't have language for who I was. Of the group, I was the first to have a girl ask me to sit by her in the movie theater when I was 10. I was the first to kiss a girl. She thought my name was Tom, but that doesn't matter. And then I hit middle school and high school and somehow blocked out that part of my life. I grew out my hair, I wore skirts occasionally, and I played the part of the popular girl, thus becoming homecoming queen. But near the end of high school, I had my first true crush on a woman. She was my basketball camp counselor. And I didn't know what that meant about me, and I kept it to myself, but I still recall the rush I felt. The summer before college, I really struggled. I had met a lesbian couple in town who were in their 30s, and they'd share their stories with me over beers one night. Something clicked, and it scared the living crap out of me. It was like a light had been turned on that I wanted to turn off, a box that I desperately wanted to bury. Realizing that I might be one of them felt like the worst possible turn I could make. I'd worked so hard my whole life to be the golden daughter I was set up to be, and this character defect would shatter everything. I started to drink more frequently. I was scared and depressed, yet insanely curious, like living a double life. My first year of college was a huge blur. I lived 2 lives in my mind. One was on the campus of St. Ben's, a girls' Catholic college where I was on the golf, rugby, and basketball teams. And the other was partying with the women's rugby crowd and going to Club Metro and kissing about every girl I possibly could. I came out to my parents, my brothers, officially the next summer, but really they already knew. I feared being cast out of the family. I feared rejection. My mom struggled the most the first couple of years, but as she processed, she was loving in that process. My dad, who was an attorney, actually invited me to his office deposition room, and he said he decided to approach the situation like a court case. We could settle, both get what we wanted, and he asked me if I could be bisexual. You have to know my dad, and it was actually his very funny way of saying everything was going to be okay. While it could have been smoother, more hugs, more love, immediate acceptance, less fear, my family did stand by me. I hated myself the most. I was suicidal. I drank a lot. I felt like a disappointment to me, to my family, to my community that had cheered me on so much as their beloved sports star. I was afraid I was going to hell, like the church had taught me. And as I moved into my 20s as a school teacher, I stayed in the closet at work, but out with family and friends. I was afraid of losing my job for being gay. And as a coach, I was afraid the parents would accuse me of even worse with their daughters. But 14 years ago, I met my wife, Trenda, and my life changed. We had a wedding ceremony with over 100 family and friends in the Plymouth Community Center before marriage was legal, and I became a step-parent to 2 beautiful little girls. My parents walked me down the aisle. One of my brothers and his wife wrote a song that they performed at the wedding. Becoming a parent changed everything, and for those girls and my wife, I knew I could no longer stay in the closet. Shame was no longer in my vocabulary. Instead, I replaced it with pride. I changed careers, and I was working for the Minnesota Lynx, and being fully out allowed me to be advocating for our LGBTQ fans and leading by example across the league. Life was full, and it remains so. I can't say it's been easy since being fully out. Life still happens, and the marriage debate exposed extended family members who sent some very hurtful letters. But for me personally, being out and proud has opened my life to so many wonderful, life-giving experiences, friendships, and love. I know that my coming out has helped others as well, and I know that I've been a role model to some, and I take that responsibility very seriously. My wife is a college president, and our being out as a couple is powerful. We embrace the opportunity to be that exposed. Now, as a children's book author, I go to schools every month, and I speak about what it means to be a role model. And in life, we're rarely good at something the first time we try it. But if it's something we really want, we're going to get back up and try again. And that's life. Get back up and try again. I bring my full, authentic self to those kids, and they deserve that from me. Thinking back to the self-loathing I felt in my late teens and early 20s, I forgive that scared young woman that I was. I'm healed. There's so much more healing to be done in our communities. Life is not perfect. There's so much work that we need to do. But I hope that in sharing some of my story today with you, someone or someone you know might gain an ounce of hope or reflection or just appreciation or whatever it is that you need. Thank you.